Now to that big warning that's coming in from industry experts on artificial intelligence. Well, could it lead to the extinction of humanity? Experts, including the heads of OpenAI and Google DeepMind, in an open letter, have warned that it could. NDTV's Parameshwar explains what that open letter says and what these experts have in mind.
A group of leading tech experts have warned that the artificial intelligence technology they were building might one day pose an existential threat to humanity and should be considered a societal risk on a par with pandemics and nuclear wars. The 22-word statement, trimmed short to make it as broadly acceptable as possible, says, mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear wars. This statement, published by a San Francisco-based non-profit, the Center for AI Safety, has been co-signed by figures including Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the Microsoft-backed AI research lab that is behind ChatGPT, and the so-called godfather of AI who recently left Google, Geoffrey Hinton. They were among the hundreds of leading figures who signed the "We're on the brink of crisis" statement. The Center for AI Safety website, meanwhile, suggests a number of possible disaster scenarios. AIs could be weaponized. For example, drug discovery tools could be used to build chemical weapons. AI-generated misinformation could destabilize society and undermine collective decision-making. Or the power of AI could become increasingly concentrated in fewer and fewer hands, as we're seeing, enabling regimes to enforce narrow values through pervasive surveillance and oppressive censorship. This statement is the latest high-profile intervention in the complicated and controversial debate over AI safety. As we had covered earlier this year as well, an open letter signed by some of the same individuals backing this 22-word warning, calling for a 6-month pause in AI development. The letter, though, was criticized on multiple levels. Some experts thought it overstated the risk posed by AI, while others agreed with the risk but not the letter's suggested remedy. Meanwhile, some critics have also complained that dire warnings about existential risks voiced by makers of AI have contributed to hyping up the capabilities of their products and distracting from calls for more immediate regulations to rein in their real-world problems. Meanwhile, Union Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar has laid out a blueprint for the future of artificial intelligence in India in an exclusive interview with NDTV.
It's an extremely exciting, it's a kinetic enabler of the digital economy, as I am very happy to keep repeatedly say. We are going to approach AI as really a very, very important opportunity for our startups and our innovation ecosystem. We certainly want to be playing a leadership role in how AI evolves. This is the year where we are chairman of the program for AI, a coalition of AI nations around the world. And we certainly want to be at the cutting edge in terms of where this goes. But we also want to play a role in creating the guardrails in terms of where AI should not go. And we have laid out our doctrine and our thinking for the rest of the world to follow, that we expect to regulate AI through the prism of user harm. We will not necessarily go down the road of some other nations of regulating it through use cases. And say this area should not have AI. We will regulate it in a way that AI cannot cause harm to those who are on the internet, whether it is misinformation harm or it is any other kind of harm. We certainly don't want AI to do anything but create good for our people and the digital navigates.
We don't want AI to do anything but good for our people. Meanwhile, and this is not too much into the future, this is happening right now, the Telangana Special Investigating Team probing the high-profile leak of the State Public Service Commission exam question paper has found that one of the accused used ChatGPT to generate answers for that leaked question paper. An engineer with the state-run power company revealed the use of ChatGPT in that high-profile leak case. He was arrested by the police, but underlining the fact that ChatGPT and AI tools can be used not only for good, but for disturbing realities as well. Joining us to answer the big question on, of course, there are a wide range of topics to talk about in AI, but we're going to be specifically focused to AI, the impact it has on students, and also get a quick reaction on the extinction threat. Joining us, Jaspreet Bindra, founder of Tech Whisperer Limited, author, a well-known expert on AI. Thank you, Jaspreet. Dinesh Singh, former Vice Chancellor of the Delhi University. And we also have a student voice, Michelle John, from the student community of the School of Modern Media at UPES, Dehradun. Thank you three for joining us. First to you, Jaspreet. What's really AI doing to the classrooms and to the human race? What's your first thoughts on it?
I think much like you said, AI is a dual-use technology, much like nuclear technology, in fact. If you think of nuclear technology, there's a great lot of good it can do, clean power, clean energy, etc. But then there's the other side, which obviously we saw during Hiroshima, Nagasaki, all the destructive bombs, etc. So AI, and especially generative AI, is something a little bit like that. It can be used for good, both in the classroom as well as for the human race. But in the hands of malevolent actors, it can do bad also. I'm very glad that a student is here. I teach at Ashoka University, among others, and students have taken to these tools with the keenness that most of us haven't, and are mostly using it to generate new ideas, generate different options, generate essays that they can work on, etc. Similarly, from a human viewpoint, we can solve great, massive problems like nuclear fusion, for example, climate change, for example. But on the other hand, we can do bad also, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as we go further.
But getting the conversation focused on students, and before I get Professor Dinesh, let me ask Michelle, how do you guys use AI tools? I mean, do you guys use it consciously to perhaps get your work done, or do you use it only to augment your work?
Personally, I use AI to outline essays I have, and as a media student, I have a lot of video projects that I have. So just scripting and all of that. And I use it to enhance my creativity because I like writing. So just generating topics for writing. And recently I used it to come up for a headline for a blog, which the headlines it came up with, I couldn't comprehend. It was just too creative. But I use it mostly for my college work, just to give me that little nudge into a more creative space.
Professor Dinesh Singh, is it a real menace in the classrooms for faculty to really determine whether a student's actually using AI tools to fudge or plagiarize assignments and exam papers?
Well, actually, let me just say that, faculty can be a menace without artificial intelligence, and they can be a menace to themselves and to their students. What faculty needs to do at all times is to be alert, to be creative, to be vigilant, and to engage with various aspects of the society and the world around them. And if they do that, then they can put artificial intelligence to great use. I mean, if you just look at ChatGPT and GPT-4, for instance, Khan Academy, Salman Khan, who runs that Khan Academy, which is funded by Bill Gates Foundation, is already using artificial ChatGPT, GPT-4 in fact, and is working with open artificial intelligence to create personalized tutors for math learning. That's such a creative use. And the sooner faculty learns to put such things to use, the better. The other thing I want to say is that I haven't come across, I've been engaging with many faculty across the breadth of this land, and I haven't come across a single person, be it from the humanities or from other disciplines, who could tell me that, there are so many of these artificial intelligence generative platforms, and they haven't asked students to take a topic, give both the platforms something to say about them, and then ask the student to do a critical analysis. That's how faculty could put it to use. So I really don't think faculty should be worried as long as they are up to the task of keeping themselves alert and abreast with these developments.
Right. But when you see an answer script, and this is to both Jaspreet and you before I get to Michelle, when you see an answer script or a test or an assignment that's submitted online, how difficult is it to really judge whether the student knows that stuff? If you have so many of them with access to such artificial intelligence tools, how do you determine what's been done with artificial intelligence and what's been done with human intelligence of a student?
Well, actually,
sorry.
Go ahead, Jaspreet. Go ahead. You go ahead, please, first.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor. So, I think if you kind of look at the output of any of these tools today, remember ChatGPT is 6 months old. It's not been there, to be refined, etc. Or even if you look at some of the tools built on top of ChatGPT and see the results of that versus seeing the results of what a human has written, even without any technology tools, you can figure out that what has been written by AI today. Most of the facts will be wrong. If papers have been cited, you will see that most of those papers which have been cited are wrong. There are many instances which have brought that out. ChatGPT, as you know, today makes stuff up as it goes along. It hallucinates through conversations, and finding that hallucination and made up stuff is quite simple. Having said that, these will get refined, but on the side, there are tools being made, even by OpenAI, which will help, which kind of tells you whether this has been generated by AI versus being generated by a human being. Today, the confidence levels are low, but these tools will come up. In fact, an entire industry will get spawned, which will have tech tools which can make that difference. And the combination of tech tools plus human intelligence, human ingenuity, I think it will be reasonably easy to find out. Remember, to conclude, this is generative AI, so it should be used to generate ideas, etc. And that's what it should be used for.
Could I take that question? Could I take that point that you're making to Michelle as well? Michelle, when you're with a bunch of students, there are some with ideas, some who are able to come up with genuinely human intelligent headlines, if you're talking as a media student, and some who just use artificial intelligence tools, as you pointed out, to come up with a great headline. Is it really killing the creativity of some of those really talented human intellectuals?
I think creative people will always find a way around AI, because one thing AI cannot imitate is emotion. And I think that's where it lacks, and that's where creative people step up and like, I can handle this. And I think creative people should start viewing AI as a tool, as an ally, rather than something that dampens their individuality or talent. Because I think the more we view it as an enemy, the more we stray away from the fact that it's actually a catalyst.
Can I ask you a quick question? How many of your classmates and how many of the people you know actually misuse AI while submitting an assignment test?
There are a few. I'm not going to lie. There are a few who misuse AI.
Would you say it's a majority?
Definitely.
Okay, so there you go, Professor Dinesh Singh. That's really the problem, isn't it? It's the question of responsible use of the tools that you have in your hands.
Let me tell you something. I have no idea, Veera Raghav. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
We'll check with AI for that.
I wonder if you studied at one of the colleges of Delhi University, but my experience over many years of engaging with teachers in different colleges gave me the impression that generation after generation, students would essentially copy tutorials from the previous batch or a couple of batches before them. Right. There wasn't much creativity then. So why would you worry so much about creativity now? Number one. Number two, if you phrase your questions properly, and as Jaspreet said, I know there is this Princeton student who's already invented a kind of device based on artificial intelligence that can detect these answers, that if they're using something like ChatGPT or GPT-4. Plus, I think teachers need to be more creative with their idea of how they would judge and what kind of assignments they would give. I wouldn't worry too much about this. Teachers need to just come up to speed with these things.
Right. Teachers need to come up to speed, but every time I've tried to put anything I've even originally written on Grammarly on news, it shows that it's plagiarized. So I often get confused on what's plagiarized and what's not. But now to the larger question and a quick reaction from all three of you. How worried are you about the warning that's come out in that open letter from top industry experts that AI could potentially threaten human extinction? Jaspreet, quick reaction to that.
I'm not worried about AI threatening human extinction. I'm actually worried about human beings using AI, which could threaten extinction or damage to human beings. Right. So it's not super intelligence, but actually humans who can, with the wrong intent, using these tools to give fake news, destroy democracy, create weapons of war, etc. That is a greater worry rather than a super intelligent AI.
Michelle, how much are you guys dependent in your generation on AI? Can you live without tools like Google Maps or even ChatGPT?
I'm not too worried, but there is a sense of worry because we feel like it's going to take away our jobs. But I think the more we view it as something to help us rather than like completely replace us, I think that's where it'll sort of help us in the future just as a catalyst for our creativity rather than something that's going to replace all of us.
And Professor Dinesh, how do you now finally judge the good and talented student? Is it the one who's learned to use AI or the one who's showing his talent despite AI?
Well, both. I would judge both of them. I think that is a great tool to be used creatively. And I have used it to advantage in some of the things. But by the way, it's very slipshod when it comes to dealing with mathematics of a slightly higher level. It just has no idea. It's completely out of its depth. So let me reassure everyone, all your viewers, it's got a long way to go before it can do things that Einstein did or Michelangelo did or Picasso did. So let's not worry too much. Let's just be alert. And if you permit me, I'll just take a minute. I'm reminded of a cartoon I saw years ago in Punch, the humor magazine, the British humor magazine. There's this cave dweller who's just invented fire. And he's showing his tribal chief what's happening there. And the tribal chief is telling this gentleman, you know, yeah, all this is very good, but you need to keep it away from cave centers. So every single technology that comes around will create a certain degree of alarm, some fear, maybe apprehensions, and we need to be cautious, but I would never be alarmed with these things.
Right. Thank you so much. I wish we had that cartoon to display here, but thank you all for speaking to us here.